The New York Nonprofit Press, the industry standard for nonprofits, is a must-read for over 20,000 New York City and state executives. Those who know the nonprofit world count on the NYNP to deliver breaking news and get messages across into the nonprofit industry. Ads can be placed in our paper, daily emails, or on our website. For more information, visit nynp.biz or email publisher@nynp.biz. The New York Nonprofit Press, serving people who serve people.
Welcome back to the Nonprofit Voice. My guest this morning is Gina Keeley, who started a foundation in honor of her daughter Paige, who passed away almost 3 years ago from a fatal condition called brain arteriovenous malformation, AVM, as we'll call it here on the show. She started a foundation in her honor to raise awareness about this condition, and we're honored to have Gina on the show to talk about the foundation and the awareness that she's spreading throughout Long Island. But we're also joined today by Dr. Bekelis of the Stroke and Brain Aneurysm Center of Long Island, who's going to tell us a little bit more about what is a brain arteriovenous malformation and why doesn't anybody know about it?
Sure. So, and that's a good point, right? A lot of people know about brain aneurysms because I think they're more common. But really, an AVM is very different from an aneurysm. An aneurysm is a soft spot on the side of a blood vessel. An AVM is an abnormal connection between an artery and a vein. So really what happens is the blood flows from an artery to a vein normally, and it slows down in that process. But if you're missing that part of the blood vessel that slows the blood down, then you end up in a situation where the high pressure blood goes from the artery straight into the vein, which is obviously not used to seeing that high pressure, and it's at risk to bleed. AVMs are more rare than aneurysms, but they're actually more likely to bleed than a brain aneurysm, and they can have as catastrophic consequences as an aneurysm bleeding.
And that is, of course, what happened to Gina's daughter, Paige, when she was just 6 years old, getting the phone call from school that every parent, pretty much every worst nightmare. Gina, you managed to turn a tragedy, so sorry to go through with your family, into something where you can help raise awareness. And we're also joined today by Jessica Nigro, whose son also had this condition. Thank you, Jessica, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we heard Gina's story in the first half about how her daughter Paige was diagnosed with this condition. Can you tell us a little bit about your son Tyler and how you came to learn about AVM?
Absolutely. My son Tyler was a happy, healthy little boy. He had no medical conditions whatsoever. On April 29th, 2019, however, that has changed my life forever. He went to school that day, and he was perfectly fine all day in school. He came home from school, asked if he can go play basketball at the neighborhood park. I said, absolutely. I dropped him off at the park. 5 minutes after dropping him off at the park, I get a call. Mom, I have a really bad headache and my eyes are bothering me. I need you to come down to pick me up. So I turned right around to go and get him. By the time I ended up getting back to the park, he already started losing motor function. His pupils were dilated. I immediately called 911. The minute 911 got there, they thought Tyler was on drugs, taking something. Told him, I said, I know my son. He is not on anything. He went down to the hospital. He was immediately incubated. He got a scan, and there was blood already on his brain. I did have several options at first for surgery for him. In the matter of an hour, that completely changed. The blood was completely spreading like crazy. They had put a drain inside his head, and it was just clotting. This is really emotional for me to talk about. I'm sorry. Every time I give this story, it's just really hard to talk about.
Of course, and thank you so much for sharing. You're so brave to come on and share your story about Tyler. Dr. Bekelis, if I could turn back to you for a minute. We've heard, really from Paige's mom and Tyler's mom about how this condition seems to come on in a flash. It can change just as quickly as it came on.
Sure.
And have really devastating consequences. Can we talk a little bit about preventive care and detection? You mentioned that certain groups might be predisposed for this kind of condition or have some risk factors. Can you tell our audience a little bit more about what those are?
Sure. And obviously, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. And maybe there's any warning signs that we can be looking for. We talked about nosebleeds, or maybe there's something else.
Absolutely, and but obviously Tyler's story is very powerful, and he was under our care, so it's even more stressful for us to see this outcome, and kind of comes to show you how important, as you said, prevention is, and hopefully early detection. And so the way we're able to detect these AVMs is with simple brain scans that do not require radiation or do not require any contrast. They're called MRAs, or MRIs for that matter, and we're able to detect these AVMs, and we have to select obviously who would be a candidate for such a screening, and there is a process we're using and a questionnaire and a screening tool we use to identify folks that would benefit from it. But in short, it would generally be people with family history of these lesions, and or folks that fall in the category of possibly a genetic syndrome such as hereditary hemorrhagic telangiectasia, in short HHT, which is a syndrome associated with brain arteriovenous malformations, and is recognized by identifying some skin lesions, arteriovenous malformations there, and or frequent nosebleeds, which we can grade based on a nosebleed severity scale that can tip us off to look into it further. Now, for the general population that does not qualify for screening because they have no family history or there's no other indications that they might be having an arteriovenous malformation, the warning signs are very important, and those typically have to do with a persistent headache that's different than any other headache that somebody has had before in their life, dizziness, pain behind the eye, double vision, and potentially nausea and vomiting. These are signs that initially can signify an arteriovenous malformation changing, or possibly a sentinel bleed or an early bleed that we can intervene on before things become too severe. When after an arteriovenous malformation ruptures, things are typically very challenging to control, and the chances are stacked up against us after that point.
It's fascinating. Well, I have to tell you, Dr. Bekelis, you've really raised my awareness and I'm so much more sensitive now to when my children might complain of a headache, something really to take seriously. Turning back to Gina, I know your foundation, in Paige's honor, is trying to spread the word about arteriovenous malformations. And you're joined here by your colleague, Angela Trevino, who also works with you at the organization. So thank you, Angela, for joining us as well. Can you both tell us a little bit about what kind of awareness campaigns are going on in the area where people can both get more information?
Sure. We've started doing AVM Awareness Day in the school systems, which is during non-COVID times will be a little more exciting, but the main goal and purpose of that is to raise awareness of brain arteriovenous malformations, aneurysms, and the other piece to this is educating school staff, nurses' offices, and everybody in the schools on knowing potential signs of brain trauma. So we've created signs for the nurse's office, just very similar to choking signs, with looking out for signs of head trauma, which could be a concussion, a stroke, a brain bleed, because some of them, and again, I'm not a doctor at all, but the symptoms can be a bit similar with the headache, the vomiting, the nausea, seizing, and really driving home the urgency of how fast to call 911, and calling in 911 and saying we have a potential brain bleed or brain trauma can change how fast and quickly they move, because every second counts. In addition to that, we've created, or actually not we, Dr. Bekelis has a CME program, which we are doing with first responders, firemen, any level of first responder, to educate them more and reiterate brain trauma. And from that, they get the certification given from Dr. Bekelis, and it's, in non-COVID times, we're trying to do everything live. And we're out there raising awareness. We have our free screening program that Dr. Bekelis is doing, and we just, and thankful for partnering with Angela, who she's an aneurysm survivor herself. So, she knows the urgency of it, and
Well, it's fantastic information, Gina. What's the name of your website? And can you give us the address and also a phone number of where people can go if they want more information? Some members of our audience might not be lucky enough to be at a school that is already sensitized to this. So where can people go if they want to get more information about it?
Sure. If all of our information is on our website, which is www.thepagekeeleyfoundation.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. We have links on there to schedule your screening, which is done at the Stroke and Brain Aneurysm Center in Babylon. Phone number is 983-7072. And to get your schools involved and anyone interested in CME programs, information for that is on our website as well.
Great. And I was just interjecting to give the correct spelling of the website. It's the Page, Paige, Keeley, Keely, Foundation.com. So not everybody knows how to spell it, so it's just in case. Great information. And I want to turn, Gina, to something that we touched on in the first half of the show about really how you decided to utilize this tragedy in your life and make it really become something that can raise awareness and help others. That's what this show is all about. It's all about women who find their purpose, or in your case, sometimes the purpose finds you. And so how did you go about starting the foundation, connecting with others? I think sometimes it's pretty magical that when you go through tragedies and traumas in your life, things have a way of making connections for themselves. Can you walk us through that journey that you took?
Sure, absolutely. It was a difficult journey, a very difficult choice to do this, because you do have to relive the story quite often. And sometimes you just get to a point where you can just say it. There are some days you can't even talk about it. But the reason that I'm doing this is because I was told that my child was born with a condition that, if it was detectable, it was treatable and should likely be here today. So those are the words that they keep me going, and they power me and push me forward. And through social media, I've had the honor of partnering with Dr. Bekelis. I've been able to, met with Jessica, who we're going to hopefully be working together on getting out in the school systems and educating the community, and meeting with Angela, who is also an aneurysm survivor. I speak to families and people literally all over the world, and just sharing stories, and we all come to the same conclusion or the same head that, yes, the disease is treatable. If we had known, either our lives would be different or our loved ones would be here today. And it all starts with awareness. And
I know that you've been able to utilize social media quite a bit to make those kind of connections and get the word out as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Did you have prior experience with building websites and reaching out to others on social media, or did you just sort of learn by doing?
I learned by doing. And COVID gave me a lot of time to do webinars and try to figure out how to reach the masses. And so through social media and really Dr. Bekelis' nurse, Michelle, she reached out to me through social media, and it turns out she lives right here in my hometown. And she followed Paige's story, and she reached out to me and said, we can help. This is what we do for a living, and let's have a conversation. And it started with the conversation, and it moved so quickly. And having the honor of meeting with Dr. Bekelis and telling him all my visions and all of my dreams and what I want to do and accomplish. And honestly, they just were making it happen. And we're just power in numbers. We just keep talking.
It's an incredible story. And I know that you're trying to get the word out to schools and through the medical community and first responders. Can you also tell us a little bit about the screening process itself? Some people have, for whatever reason, a reluctance to go through screening. Maybe it's the fear of knowing or knowing what they don't know or something like that. Can you tell us what's involved in the screening itself? Is it painful? Is it inconvenient? Can you walk us through that?
Sure. And I like that how you said, are people fearful of it? And it's a non-invasive. It's not even a procedure. It's just an appointment. It's having a conversation. It's asking detailed questions about your family medical history. And from there, Dr. Bekelis, if he feels that you should have an MRA scan, or quite honestly, if the individual, we have a choice to say, I'd like to see what's going on in my brain. Why can't I? Why can't you do that? And I would like to ultimately see this as the conversation before you're at your OBs, at your pediatricians, when you're trying to conceive a child. I mean, we do so much preventative. We do sonograms. We do breast exams. We've come so far, and we vaccinate, and we do everything we can for our children. And vaccines kind of hurt. This is a conversation, and it's a very simple scan if a parent wants it. And I would say if you knew about it, you'd want it, because you don't want to be me. You don't want to be Jessica. And there are so many of us out there.
Well, we're so lucky to have the both of you who used, this tragedy in your life to really help improve and prevent this from happening to anybody else. It sounds to me like this is a pain-free, anesthesia-free, and I think in the case of your foundation, a cost-free way to get some really important information that can save your life.
Yes. And, I think Dr. Bekelis could touch more on this as far as having a child scanned. My other two children, they had the MRA scan. It was 6 to 7 minutes. Again, it's non-invasive. There's no radiation. You listen to music, and you're out. When it comes to a younger child, if they, somebody that cannot sit still, then, there's different ways that they would have to go about, to my knowledge.
Right. Well, I'm sure the procedure itself is slightly different depending on the age of your child. But this has been really incredible information. It's really opened up my eyes. I think a lot of people have heard about aneurysms and the devastating effects that an aneurysm could have, but I certainly had no idea that an AVM even existed, or that it could really just be something lurking either in myself, my husband, my family, and my friends, something that's lurking beneath the surface that is so easily detected, if only people knew about it. So I'm really grateful to be able to spread the word by utilizing this show for that. Thank you all for spreading the word through your foundation. And for those listening, where can people go as we wrap up in our last 30 seconds for more information?
For more information, they can visit our website at www.thepagetv.com. KeelyFoundation.com. And for our screening program is 631-983-7072. And also, Jessica, if she would like to talk about her son's website and the foundation and where to find information.
So we have a foundation for Tyler James Abazid, and our foundation's website is www.tylerjamesabazidfoundation.org, and we are trying to do AVM research as well.
Great. Well, thank you all for being here today and for everything that you're doing to raise awareness. We'll be back next Saturday with another episode of The Nonprofit Voice. Thanks so much for listening.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.